and CEO of Thomas Dunn Learning Center since 2014. She has all this experience in nonprofits for volunteerism to senior leadership. She's done it all. And I can personally say, as someone who's hosted events here at Thomas Dunn Learning Center, Paula is here like from the beginning and then often the last to leave. So you know that's a good leader. She's also a great leader in terms of sustainability. She worked with Thomas Dunn for their sustainability plan for this architectural award-winning building. Raising hand if you know like the big windows in the back and the lovely, wonderful natural sunlight. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty unique. So thank you, Paula, for working on that. But you are also caring about the property, about the planet, about making sure that everyone's lives are in good shape. And part of that is the educational work that you all do here with the classes and programs. I believe at the front you have this like amazing rack full of flyers of all the things that are going on. And so what's also unique about Thomas Dunn Learning Center.
This building had the Distinguished Building Award from AIA of Green Build, and you also got a Green Build International Conference Scholarship. And also TDLC, Thomas Dunn Learning Center, was the first nonprofit organization to be awarded the Green Dining Alliance certification under your leadership. So it means that when nonprofits like Ford the Ferguson host events here, we're told, hey, make sure you don't use styrofoam, make sure you use things that are compostable, you want to reduce the single-use stuff, and that's really great. It's a good challenge for us, and it's something that keeps us always thinking about the earth. So another panelist that we have is, let me flip my pages, Bob Henkel, Earth Day 365. Raise your hand, Bob. Hello. You had so many years, 2 decades of program development experience in service-oriented nonprofits. You really care about sustainability, recycling, land stewardship, and developing human potential. You also coordinate the St. Louis Earth Day Festival. Raise your hand if you went to that. Okay, it was very cold. Good job. You made it. You survived. You're here again, and it's windy. And so you also developed Recycling on the Go, event greening program, and you also support the Green Dining Alliance, which we just talked about. And so that is a whole certification program, but you also explore the launch of things like the pilot Kind Box reusable to-go container program, reducing single-use plastics. You're also the co-chair of the One STL Food Waste Subcommittee, as well as the One STL Sustainability Plans Waste and Materials Working Group. So next to Bob, we have Aaron Young, East-West Council of Governments. You're the manager of sustainability planning at the East-West Gateway Council of Governments. And so you participated in the development of One STL, the St. Louis Regional Plan for Sustainable Development, and you're currently coordinating all these collaborative efforts. It's super great. And let's see, you're active in the American Planning Association, and you sit on the board of directors of Earth Day 365. I'm noticing it might be a little funny that I'm like addressing them. I just want to create this conversation feel for what we're about to embark on. So last but not least, we have Deborah Rice Carter from A Red Circle. And on a personal note, A Red Circle is one of my favorite nonprofits ever. Erica Williams' leadership is really amazing. They're also one of the grantees of the Racial Healing and Justice Fund from Ford through Ferguson, Deaconess Foundation, and Missouri Foundation for Health. And you, Deborah, have been bringing awareness to the community about sustainable living practices. You're born in St. Louis, and you spent 23 years living in Indianapolis, so you have all sorts of experience. But you are, even though you're retired, you are an avid gardener. And we just talked about how confusing it's been to garden this season because the plants are experiencing shock. Raise your hand if you've been gardening lately. Okay. Okay, we see some gardeners. What are you growing? I love it. I love a young gardener. Onion. Okay, everyone clap for the onion because, okay, A, you're a young gardener, B, you're growing onions, and you have to be really intentional about onions. You have to like make sure that they get all the nutrients so they grow a big bulb, and you have to be really patient. Like the green part has to die off before you can harvest it, correct? Yeah, see? Oh my gosh, amazing. So Deborah is passionate about the environment and sustaining our own communities. And we also had Charlie Cooksey from We Power. If she comes in, I will introduce her as well. But we'll start with this panelist right here. So you're gonna notice we have one mic. I guess we're practicing sustainability in this manner as well. And so I'm gonna ask all of you to like hold all of this together when you have your remarks and pass it to each other. This is a conversation, and keep your comments to about like 3 to 5 minutes so that everyone has a chance to speak. But we're going to start off with you, Paula. I want you to start by framing the conversation. What is sustainability? Tell us about the three different spheres of sustainability and how that relates to what you're doing with Thomas Dunn Learning Center. Because as Peggy mentioned, you're embarking on a new strategic plan.
Sure. We may not even need the microphone. I think it's okay. Okay. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. So what sustainability means to me is is pulling many issues together that fall under the equity, economic, and environmental spheres or pillars, and they sometimes call those the three E's. And we were looking at everything that we do here and everything we've done in the past 9 years, and everything we do falls under one of those spheres of sustainability. And the fact that we work with our youth and trying to get them to understand that this is we're passing the torch to them, and how important it is because we're doing this, as you said, for the youth and for their children and for generations for our earth. What we're doing here, part of our relaunch of our mission, is includes a little bit different vision. It all still revolves around education, but really looking at the social and human, the equity side of what we do, combining the environmental and the economic. Um, and they all meld together because standing alone, one is not going to do it. We have to all be doing multiple spheres of sustainability and letting them intertwine in order for us to have full sustainability of our earth and for our future.
Okay, sustainability to me is learning, teaching how you can be sustainable in your own space, in your community, bringing everything together to every individual, make it equal, diversity, touching everybody's family, bringing everybody together because we cannot live in this world and think that we're alone. Everybody has to work together in order for us to sustain, of course. So we have the environment, we have education, we have food, we have all kinds of stuff. Social justice. So a red circle really touches on every one of these topics. We have 8 programs going, and we try to bridge the gap between the community and the resources that they need. And we look at this through a racial equity lens to make it more feasible for everybody. So that is what sustainability is to me.
Thank you. So to me, the sustainability is looking at everything from the systems that we're in. Oftentimes you'll see the Venn diagram of sustainability of the three circles, and sustainability is that middle part where they all intersect. And I think that misses the point of what we need to do with sustainability. I like overlapping those circles with the environment being the biggest one, and within the environment is our society and economy. None of the society and economy can't operate unless we have a functioning environment, and we have to take care of it and think about how it can provide for us into the future. We can't clean all the air and water without the environment, so we have to have that system intact and in place and healthy. The healthier it is, the healthier we are as a species. So what I do at East West Gateway Council of Government is I work in the community planning department. So I try to take this system of the environment and bring it to other projects. So other people that are working on whether it's transportation or a hazard mitigation plan or stuff people don't even know happens at regional scale here, that they're thinking about what impact their projects have on the environment, and to turn around and how the environment can help them with what they're trying to do.
Hey, thanks everyone. So a textbook answer about sustainability is meeting the needs of the present without compromising the needs of the future. And, a lot of times that's talked around as people, planet, profit as three pillars, which are similar. But then, like, how do you look at sustainability definition wise when our environment has been so degraded? Are we trying to just sustain at this place where we have all kinds of social inequities going on? Or are we trying to transform ourselves and be more transformative? Some people talk about regenerative agriculture, sustainable agriculture. Um, but I think it's really important, as my other panelists have talked about, the social equity, looking at systems, looking at how every piece of what we live in right now, how is that impacting our ability to move forward together such that people have what they need to thrive, not just survive, right? We want, we talked about that onion earlier, like let's make sure that we give it all the conditions to grow healthy and a big, onion there, right? What does that mean? And I think we don't all know. And I think what we have to do, for me, around sustainability, is really collaborating with each other and really trying to make connections just like the mycelium do and all the other plants and animals do. How can we look at how they make connections with each other to thrive and create a beautiful forest and ecosystem? How can we do that with people instead of being so isolating, um, in how we make approaches? So, um, anyway, Earth Day 365, we like to celebrate everything that is happening in the region through our Earth Day Festival. So Earth Day 365, we're not the ones that are doing all this great stuff. Everybody who shows up, every vendor that we have, every musician that we have on the stage, they're the ones that are doing this every day, day in and day out, and we're celebrating that. And that's really important, um, for us in this movement that can have so much grief around the pain that we see in our daily lives, the pain that we see in degraded environments. Can we take a moment to celebrate what is working and give ourselves that passion and rejuvenation to move forward? So, um, I really appreciate being on this panel because I think we're touching on a lot of great things, from different perspectives.
Thank you all so much for your answers about what sustainability means to you. I feel like you said a lot of words that are my favorite words at Fort through Ferguson. I heard racial equity brought up. I heard social justice brought up. I heard collaboration brought up. I heard systems change brought up. So something that I'm hearing is that all of these things are intersecting, interlocking. We can't do sustainability work in silos. We must do it together. So one of the questions that I have, and I think it's a great question to start with, is what does racial equity mean in the midst of sustainability? When you talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, those are things that businesses, institutions, nonprofits are getting more and more interested in, but taking it to practice is a whole different thing, right? And making that something that's important in your policies, in your culture. And I'm thinking about what's at stake, right? When you look at the environmental racism in St. Louis report, when you look at asthma rates, for example, Black children are 10 times more likely, over 10 times more likely than white children to go to the ER for asthma. We think about illegal dumping. Dutch towns, in particular, right around where we are, is a major place that illegal dumping happens. It's not to say that it's an issue that it's because of residents of Dutchtown. It's probably because of how people perceive certain neighborhoods and what is worth investing in and what is not. And all of you here, when you're talking about your work, seem to me people who like collaboration and who really care about investing in the next generation and making sure that we have a society that we want to live in. So I'm going to hand it to Deborah first because of your work at A Red Circle. Tell me about at A Red Circle where you see collaboration show up and where you see racial equity centered in everything. And then I want you to pass it to your other panelists. Other panelists, you can raise your hand if something that Deborah says sparks something for you. And I want to hear from you all how you would imagine collaborating with each other or how you hope people are inspired to collaborate after this panel.
So at a Red Circle, we have so many partners. We collaborate with farmers, environmental people, education. So, like I said, we touch on a lot of different subjects. And what we do is we try to bring all these things together to our community so they won't have to go out to the community to search for this stuff. So, right now, uh, we have several projects. We have a grocery store project that's going on, and it's at 367 in Jenny Station Road. It's a huge building. It's a huge project. Corey Bush has been a very big influence on us getting this purchasing this building. So the building was like $350,000. They wanted $1 million for it, but they got them down to. So we got ARPA money. So we got ARPA money to purchase it. Now we need money to are the funds that the government poured into uh, the community, our communities, for to use for different things. You have it's certain standards that you have to apply for, it, like education, maybe art, or uh, food accessibility, different things. So it was money that the county they allocated to the county, and also to on the state and the local and also the federal level. So we've got so much money in different sections, but we still don't have enough money to complete the inside of the building. So we're still working hard trying to get people involved in this because it is going to be a very needed thing for our farmers and our community. It'll be a community owned, community operated grocery store with farm fresh produce from the local farmers. They will be able to bring their produce there and sell. We also are going to have a place for them to like not lease, borrow equipment because it's hard for farmers to get tractors and equipment to do their farming. So it's going to be like a hub for all the farmers in it's North County. So we service the North County area. Basically, the Promise Zone is our main focus. Promise Zone, and if a Promise Zone is another program that they had, and it started like back in 2015, where the government allocated all this money for 24 municipalities in the St. Louis area that had been underserved. So they poured this money into the Promise Zone, and mental health is one thing that they look at when they talk about Promise Zone because it's a lot of families that suffer with trauma. And so on top of that, then we had the COVID thing come. So, we had so much trauma to each family. Everybody has been touched by this COVID thing. So that set us back too. So what we've tried to do is try to help people heal holistically with fresh vegetables from our farm. We give away food. We grow food. We give it away. Every week we give away food to the residents. They just have to call and pick it up. We tutor in the schools. It's just so much stuff that we do, and I mean, I don't want to take up all the time, but I could talk on each. I'm going to pass it to my other fellow panels so they can give their insight on what they do, and because, like I said, it's so much that we do that I could just take the whole hour up. So I'll probably pass it to you, Paula, first.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And what was the question?
Almost forgot it too.
Oh, what we're doing.
Well, I wanted to start with framing it in terms of how does racial equity fit within sustainability, or how can it set the agenda for sustainability? Doing it outside.
Certainly. Right. I think that sustainability supports all of DEI issues because if we look at equity, environment, and just those, not those connecting circles, but overlapping circles, as was spoke about earlier, if our Earth isn't here, none of us are here, and nothing else matters if our Earth isn't here. But if we all come together, and it doesn't matter, race, socioeconomic, sustainability can affect everyone, rural and urban. And because typically in the environment, economic, and education fields in areas, those folks have not had the power or the say so to make changes in the sustainability realm, and so it's going to take all of us to really make a difference. What we do here, and building on that second part of that question, then, is just some of the stuff that we do in addressing those issues. Our high school equivalency program and our power skills, of course, will hopefully help with economic sustainability and boosting that. We have food share here, where it was actually started to keep food from the landfills, the grocery stores, but we also feed people, but we keep thousands of pounds of food from the landfill every week. And then of course with our then of course with the youth work that we do, in the hopes that we can pass on what we've learned and what we know, and give youth hope for their future in so many different ways, because that's ultimately what sustainability is all about.
I'd love to pivot to a conversation about the circular economy, because you all, in terms of talking about your responses around racial equity, you brought a lot up about making sure that people can live, right? And that comes from, the context of, we have the reality of food apartheid in St. Louis. There are certain areas that have access to good grocery stores with quality fresh fruits and vegetables. And Deborah, you're saying, hey, if we involve farmers, we can actually get people the food that we needed. And Paula, you were saying if you can divert food waste, that's great too. I'm bringing up the circular economy because we are facing a time where we have a huge opportunity, not just with the American Rescue Plan Act money, but also with more money being poured in from the federal government around green jobs. We saw outside in this festival, there was like, you know, uh, a place for feedback around, what do you think when you're thinking about green jobs? What comes to your mind? Everyone has a different, maybe, perception of what that is, but if we're not able to center equity and access around those jobs, then we're at a difficult place. So in particular, Erin, I would love for you to talk about what a circular economy means to you, and how you think it could be implemented in St. Louis. And you could speak to that too, Bob, next.
So to me, there's a lot of definitions out there too. Circular economy is if not reducing, eliminating waste. So our products aren't used once and thrown away, aren't even used twice and thrown away. We could keep using them, and if not the actual product, the pieces of the product can be disassembled and put into new products or reprocessed into something else. So it's about, having your materials in a continuous loop of use. Um, but that's just like textbook. How do we implement that here is, there's so many hurdles. I mean, we've been, a capitalist country since the beginning, and the whole system has to be rearranged for us to be able to accomplish it. So, I don't see how right now how we accomplish that. Yeah, but there's got to be, at first, baby steps. I mean, if we're gonna avert the climate catastrophe, though, that's looming towards us, we've got to like almost ditch everything and start over. But it's hard to imagine how we can how we could do that without having certain populations impacted more by that. So that's a part of a fear that I have when we're looking at systems and systems changes. We don't know what the impacts are going to be on certain populations. So we have to be ready to make sure everybody is getting the benefits of, changing systems equally. Um, was there a part two to the question? Okay.
Thanks, Aaron. So when I think about circular economy, I think like, what are we in, right? A linear kind of model. And for so many years, it's been an extractive linear model. And we see that a lot in our region through developers coming in, extracting, tax incentives and all kinds of money, and then leaving the region, right, with all of that capital. And so then what are we left with? We're left with failing infrastructure and people without jobs. And so trying to understand that what we're in is kind of taking the veil off of just our day-to-day life, that we just, oh, I get up, I go to work, and I make some money, and then I go to the grocery store and I feed my kids. And if that's all I see, I'm kind of stuck in kind of a fishbowl, right? But if we got to kind of pull ourselves out of that to really look as, visionarily around, wow, how did we get here? What are the cultural characteristics that hold us in place? How am I continuing to uphold those same characteristics? And are there ways that we can work differently within community? And collaboration is a huge piece of that. And so that's kind of a general thing. Specifically, Earth Day 365 has been in kind of a waste reduction model of implementation strategies. So, like first, we as an organization, we were the St. Louis Earth Day Festival, and we put that on, and then we saw, hey, festivals create a lot of trash. How can we reduce the amount of trash by recycling and composting some of that waste? And composting is a much more circular kind of process, because the food waste goes back into the land to grow more food, right? And then the food waste just keeps getting recycled and spun around that way. Recycling is what we do when we've already made 10 mistakes with an object, and I still have this plastic bottle in my hand, right? Because I wanted to get water because I'm thirsty. Well, what could I have done before that point? Could I have made another choice in my life around, uh, how I use liquid, how I, expend my energy? Um, so then all of a sudden I'm stuck with this bottle. And I go, okay, so I will recycle this, and then it becomes maybe the shirt that I'm wearing, right? And then the shirt, we find out, has all these little microplastic fibers that when I wash it go into the ocean and through our waterways, and then we have sea creatures eating them, and all of a sudden what I thought was being a good thing um, really is just a band-aid over some things that I hadn't touched on before, right? So how can we continue to back ourselves up um, in our thinking to look at where are the foundational pieces around racial inequity, um, and social issues and things like that. It you know Even just the idea that in order to be seen and heard and acknowledged, I need to wear a suit, coat, and tie or something like that, right? Those are the things that we need to unpack in our world to go, um, how can we just value people that come in and they have a different experience than us, and think that that different experience has a similar value to my own experience, and then I can value this in a conversation. Now together we each have our different perspectives, we're on equal footing. Now we can emerge a new answer, a new solution, so that Aaron isn't stuck here going, I really don't know what's going on, right? But that's what he's doing, is he's working in all these communities, and we're all trying to just kind of have these conversations and see what's going to emerge in out of this stuff. So we tried a pilot program at Earth Day 365, got 2 restaurants on board to get a plastic clamshell container that we call the kind box. And then you as a diner could get your to-go order in a plastic clamshell that you would take it home and then return that plastic clamshell container to us, and we would get it washed back to the restaurant for reuse, and just keep doing that 1,000 times, right? And we were all super excited about this kind box program, and it was like, wow, this is great. And then when we started digging into it and trying to get an app developer and trying to figure out, okay, how can we actually make this happen? Can we make money from this? Do we have to continue to get grant funds? We learned a lot of lessons that we hope to put into a new iteration from the initial go. And so experimentation, being curious, there's a member of our audience, James, right there, who's constantly experimenting with stuff and being curious about how can I do this differently, right? How can I figure out new ways to grow food or, take care of myself? That curiosity has to be sparked. And I think that's what's going on here at Touchdown with like teaching people and at a Red Circle, like we've got to engage young people and just our community around learning and being curious such that our creativity kind of emerges into a new answer.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing about everything you experienced with the Kind Box pilot. It's really interesting that someone can come up with an idea, but when you actually implement it, you go, oh, the way that people use it, or the way that we can actually sustainably keep doing this thing is much more complicated. I think this is a really great time seeing that this audience is like, basically exemplifying what you were saying about being curious and wanting to learn more and do something. I want to take a poll. I want to know what you all think is one of the biggest challenges to sustainability in St. Louis, or what you think St. Louis needs to work on in terms of sustainability. So if you raise your hand, I'm going to come around and yeah. Oh, immediately.
Economy. Yes. Well, what my observation is, for most people, especially living around me, is first people are care about what's in their pocketbook. And once that is secured, then they care about the earth. And that's why when I canvass neighborhoods, um, when I canvass, let's say, Republican, upper class area, you see greener grass, you see cleaner streets. If you, when I canvass this neighbor here, a Democratic area, or let's say low income area, you see not only, and this is partially the government's fault, potholes, fills, cracks in the street, and then you also see stuff where people don't care. They throw away mattresses, they throw away needles, they throw away everything. So, first, take care of your economy, and then people will care about the environment. And then the government will have to lead by example by fixing their potholes, the streets, as well as let's just say taking care of the homeless, like some people claim they want to do.
Thank you. And what was your name?
Damien.
Damien, thank you so much. I want 2 more answers. Anyone else? Yes. Okay.
So, to reiterate what he was saying, economists have gone through and done studies where they found that as the economic mobility of countries gets greater, the desire for that particular demographic to go through and care about the environment and make environmental changes goes up. So, it's kind of hard to care about the environment when you're starving to death, or you can't stay warm, or you can't get to work. So I'm going to second that one. But the other one comes back to, I don't remember which one of the two gentlemen was talking about developers coming in and extracting money out of specific economies. The way you combat that is by art, with artists. You get the artists to come in and they revitalize specific areas, bring in culture and beautifying areas. The money stays in that area and it doesn't go out to developers. So the choices are, you either have developers fix a lot of the issues with beautifying areas, or developers will do it for you and then extract the money out.
And what was your name?
David.
David. Okay, Damien, David, and
Can you ask that question again?
yeah, yeah. What do you think is one of the biggest challenges that St. Louis is facing when it comes to sustainability?
For a lot of ABCs, and I don't think what we're facing as a challenge in sustainability is what most people think. What I've learned, especially volunteering at the food share, is it's not the color of my skin anymore, and it's not the amount of money. Because when people come to the food share, we're not asking them all them questions you get asked at the food pantry. What all we're doing is all they do is somebody signs in so they can do the head count, and that's it. What sustainability problem is in this region is about access. Now, can that be access A because your skin keeps it suntan? Access B because you're white, male, and you're over 55? It can it be because you're female and you don't have children? Is the same sustainability because you were born with a penis, but you see yourself as a female? Access is the problem. It's the same old conversation. It wears all kinds of hats. It's we don't have an equitable education system, so we sue, and then they take our babies out to white neighborhoods. Well, that did real well for those white neighborhoods and their track teams, but that didn't do anything for the poor black babies. It's about access. It's about access. And until as individuals, that's why I keep making all those mistakes trying to figure out how to sustain myself. It's because until every human being is willing to do what I'm willing to do, which is to say, as long as you respect me, I don't care how you suit up or show up. Let's increase each other's access to what we need so that we can globally do better and then do well.
And what was your name?
James.
James. If you think James preached a sermon, give a big hand. Well, I'm so glad I did that brief audience poll because you never know how these things will go. And all of you had so much wisdom. Thank you so much for sharing. Damien, David, and James. Whew. Goodness. Deborah and Paula, I'm thinking about you all because you do probably the most direct service work where you're encountering communities, you're talking to residents. What Damien, David, and James said around access, around issues of survival, about economy, basically opportunity to thrive, how does that resonate with you all? And when you think about the work that your organization is doing, where is it that you feel like it's meeting those particular needs that were raised?
So at a Red Circle, we make it possible for people to get healthy food, healthy, nutritious vegetables. We teach families how to prepare meals. We that is how we make our community healthy. We give them the choice not to have to go to the dollar store or to the Family Dollar or to those stores that are only in the black community and not when you go out of the black community. You don't see a Family Dollar. They have food in there. Some of these grocery stores do not. If you walk in the grocery store, about 70% of food in the grocery store is not healthy. So, they pouring all this stuff into our bodies. We're putting it in us. Well, they're not forcing it on us, but we have to realize that what we are eating is harmful to our systems. We want to make our families and our community healthier. We want to pass on what we know about what is harmful to us. We have pesticides all sprayed around the black community in the parks, making our children sick. All this stuff is going on in our communities, and people don't realize that. You go take your kids to the park, you think your kids are safe. About 10 years ago, they started changing out all the sliding boards and stuff. You know why, don't you? Because they were painting with lead paint and all kinds of stuff. You don't know what's good for you anymore. You have to consciously find out what is healthy for your family and for your community. You can't listen to government all the time because they're not going to tell you the truth. So what a Red Circle does, we try to educate our community on what is good for you. Don't listen to all this other bureaucracy. You come and learn how to grow food, you learn how to cook food, you learn how to serve it to your kids. You know what to do when education is another thing that we really good on and trying to press into our community. I'm also a senior advocate, so I'm a senior, and I don't like what things are going on with our senior community because I think they're trying to kill us after they take our Social Security check. So I'm the person that fights for that kind of stuff. And that's part of seniors are part of our community. We can't just set them aside and say, okay, sit over here. It's a lot of us that want to get up here and, fight for what we need. You just can't sit back and not pay attention to what's going on. And my thing is with everybody. If you talk to me, I will give you some advice that you never thought that you would get because I am really a vice person. And they call me Miss Deb, and Miss Deb will talk to you about any subject that you want to know. So, I don't know if I answered the question or not, but I hope I did. Oh, thank you. Howard. Oh, this is you.
So I think building on what we feel that the city should be doing and what our audience had said, if I remember going back to Damien first in talking about economics, I think there are ways that we can put money in people's pockets or appear to put money in people's pockets if we were to come together, collaborate, and do things a little bit differently. And I first thought about our recycling problem in our alleys, and that goes back to access of what James said, and just thinking about the simple process, or seemingly should be simple process, of putting recycling and yard waste in the alleys, but we don't know how to do it here. We weren't educated properly before the dumpsters went into the alleys, and there's no incentive for anyone to learn or to do it right. And I think that if the city would look at what's worked in other cities across the country and learn that you give incentives to people in their pocketbook for recycling properly. I lived in Sacramento 25 plus 30 years ago, 30 years ago. And when we recycled, the you got you got a discount on your trash. You know, you didn't pay as much if you're recycling. And so there was a huge incentive there to learn how to recycle and how to put your yard waste in the right containers and stuff. And there were two guys, just like there are here, on a truck picking it up, and one had a little check mark. And if you recycled and did it, then you were on track to get that incentive and that money in the pocket. And you learn very quickly, as Damien said, if there's a financial incentive, then we learn. And I think that the city needs to stop and look at that and give those incentives to folks that are doing that, because our alleys would be much cleaner, and we would have that access a bit, as James talked about, and we would be, you know, along with the education, because our education system, as we know here in the city, our public education system is broken. And when I was a child, years and years ago, I remember making a poster that said um, things like, you know, litter bugs and give a hoot, don't pollute, and you drew the owls and stuff. Kids don't even know that nowadays, and it seems like we should have progressed much farther than that too. But as Deborah said earlier, I could keep going on, and I won't.
Well, so as we get to the close of this panel today, something that I'm thinking about is just being mindful that we don't want to be blaming individuals for where we are at in this world, because if we're clear about it, any individual's actions around, you know, making sure you wash every single yogurt cup out before you recycle it, that does not compare to what a major corporation can do, right? It doesn't compare to what lobbyists can do when they make decisions about how we're regulating. If we think about the train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, right? That's a whole other thing. So in conclusion, I want to see if every one of you can give maybe a sentence or a couple sentences of encouragement to our audience when they're thinking about, okay, I'm one person. I feel overwhelmed by thinking about climate change. I feel overwhelmed about the world that we're leaving for kids that come later. I feel like I don't know what to do. What would you say to them about community work, about what's possible when we come together and build power in terms of policies and trying new things? How would you encourage all the people who decided to come here today?
I would just say to show by example. You are all sitting here for a reason. you all know, you all have knowledge, or you've gained it today. And I would just say pass it on, especially to young people, and show by example.
I would say pay attention to your surroundings and what is going on in your community. Help your neighbor. Everybody look out for each other and be stewards of the earth.
Yeah, and understand you maybe you're thinking about how to do something yourself, but whatever you're going to do, there's somebody else there already doing it that can help you. There's a huge ecosystem of sustainability in the St. Louis region. So if there's a topic that you like, you can just Google it, and there's an organization working on it that you can get hooked up with and have a bigger impact than just doing that one thing by yourself.
I think sometimes if we can focus on where we want to be, um, focus on what we want to become, keep things in that positive light is really important. I love the idea of knowing our neighbors and really building these personal connections in my work with recycling education. Yeah, we could put a billboard up by the airport that says, airline travel is really bad, but do you know that food waste is even worse for creating carbon dioxide emissions, and greenhouse gas and climate change? So working individually on reducing our food waste is really important, and we can do that in a big thing like that. But I found like recycling education one-on-one is where the needles really work. So getting to know our neighbor and having these conversations about, hey, plastic bags, don't put that in the single stream dumpster, or in the city, forget about single stream dumpsters right now. Go to the collection points, because those are much more able to be collected and get recycled than your alley dumpsters are right now, just because the city is having problems, shall we say. So one-on-one conversations are really important too.
All right, everyone, could you give a big round of applause to our panelists again? And a round to yourselves for sharing wisdom today. And presence. We know this is a start of a conversation. Here's Paula with Thomas Dunn Learning Center, Deborah Rice Carter with a red circle, Aaron let me double check. Aaron, dang it. Aaron Young, East West Council of Governments. I just met you today, okay? Bob Henkel, Earth Day 65. They're all clearly very approachable and knowledgeable, and I'm sure if you have questions, they might entertain it. Yeah? Nod? Okay, cool. Thank you so much for coming.